OK, Palle, we've got a pot of flies that we've chosen as representative for fishing in the Kaitum River. Is that right?
That's right.
Then I think we'll start with a real killer.
Fly of the week.
Yeah, fly of the week. This little lovely. A daddy longlegs, which usually hatches at this time of the year. Sometimes masses of them, other times not so many. And it's not always the case that the fish see it as number one on the menu. Not always.
Yes, but it's fun to fish with, as it always causes heavy rises.
And I notice that sometimes daddy longlegs float untouched when they're dead. We'll take that away and put it here. And now to a very small, delightful fly. A midge from Tionajok. Who tied this?
I can't help you there.
No, but you're the original designer, and it follows the daddy longlegs simply because it also hatches at this time of year and creates a huge swarm of midges on the river, which the grayling lap up. It's just mayhem on the river, and the daddy longlegs can come at the same time. And the graylings are feeding everywhere, then they suddenly change diet to daddy longlegs, so you should be prepared with both of these flies in your box. If the grayling go mad, then it's daddy longlegs. But if they're just some cautious rises, then use the midge. While we're in this area, we can go on to the same type of pattern as the midge. Can you say a few words about it, Palle?
A clinkhammer. This is a really good fly for the Kaitum River in general, probably because it was meant originally to imitate a hatching caddisfly. This is Hans van Klinken's excellent design. You should have this in several different sizes and colors. Myself, I think it sometimes imitates a hatching mayfly or a hatching caddis about to emerge. Excellent design for Kaitum.
And the yellow version's a real winner. There are other versions, of course.
A brown one, for example.
And you can always design your own variations. My favourite has a green rear body.
The standard for Kaitum is yellow, green, or a brown rear body in different sizes.
And then we move on in the area of small flies to one of your favourites, if we don't count the clinkhammer. This one.
This is a hatching mosquito or midge with a CDC plume. It's a very small fly, but still very visible, which means it works for fishing in the Kaitum where the water can be quite fierce.
Variations on a theme here.
And then there's a midge imitation in CDC with a fat black body and a white CDC wing. It could work. It's best to have a midge imitation from Tionajok or a CDC midge when the fish get choosy and change them from time to time. I find that fish get bored with the same pattern and a new fly gets them biting. Have you got any more goodies?
Let me see. At this time of year, the mayflies start to appear, so we can start with this creation, which is a black Westrin mayfly. You can make it in brown as well, and it's proved to be very successful with trout at this time of year. I'm saving it for tonight.
Nice, very nice.
But the brown version's more a grayling fly and can be used all season with reasonable success. It's very important that the fly has a narrow rear body.
I agree. Generally, when we make mayfly imitations, we tend to make the body too fat. But in reality, the rear body of a mayfly is very, very slim.
OK, we'll take that away. And now for one of your own creations. This little rascal, for example.
This imitates a betis, a little grey mayfly with delicate wings, here in the done stage. Fish can be very selective when it's around. I think the pattern can be used for all mayflies. You can make them in grey, brown, black and olive, and in yellow to imitate the yellow mayfly, which hatches in mid-July. A really fantastic experience when they come floating along on the current.
And at the very same time, the caddis start to drop by. As we often say, during some summers, everything hatches at once. But if we take it in order, it should be midge, daddy longlegs, mayflies, and then caddis.
And here, at the lower end of the upper Kaitum River, you can see caddisflies starting to appear on the banks.
This is a Europea 12.
Exactly.
And it's not size 12 that's referred to. It's the 12th fly in the series, Tony Bernan's famous series. And this, Palle, is another of your favourites.
Yes, it's an elk hair caddis, but I tie it with deer hair instead. Mainly to make it easier to shape the wings. You grease them quite heavily. It's a very good fly for both fast-moving water and the edges of the currents.
Mm-hmm. And what about this hairy thing?
This is a CDC caddis with an upper wing of deer hair. This one has a rear body in green. It's the same with caddisflies. You can vary the color, but in the mountains the basic colors are green, brown and black. But the caddis can also have a rear body in yellow.
What are the advantages of using CDC?
It's very easy to tie, and CDC floats outstandingly well. I really like it. You can tie very realistic imitations quite easily in small sizes, which is often a problem if you use the classic methods.
Cool de canard.
Cool de canard.
And the last fly in my cup, Palle.
This is another killer. It's a caddis with deer hair wings, a body hackle and an orange rear body, and has been very successful. I know that Mark Petitjean has a fly called MP82, which is an orange mayfly, a spent spinner, which is really excellent. Just what is it with the orange body that gets the fish so interested?
Nah.
But it's very effective.
How do you fish it?
Like a caddis, an ordinary caddis.
I'll put it in my cup and we can see what you've got in yours.
I like doing two things. Well, I like lots of things, but I like doing these when I'm not dry fly fishing. I like fishing with nymphs, preferably with an indicator or a short line. I'll start in the depths and work my way up.
Aha.
When fishing with nymphs, it's important to have a good variety in your box. Here's a few of them. A gold head nymph that can be used with or without extra weights on the body to get the flies to sink at different speeds. And this means adapting the flies to the waters you're fishing in at the time.
That's a little rascal.
A rascal, yes. Very clean with a weighted body. It sinks quickly. Then there are variations on the gold head. This one has a black head, a tungsten head, which makes it even heavier, so I try to dress it sparingly.
A very clean body.
Yes, very clean.
Ner med den. Det är det som gäller.
Ja.
Här kommer
And here's a hairy one.
lurventuss. Till.
An ordinary gold rib hare's ear.
Exactly.
The gold-head nymph came in during the 90s, even if we knew that the Italians had been fishing with it during the 20s and 30s. But it was in the 90s it became popular. And previously, the gold rib hare's ear was without a gold head and could have a thorax or not.
Just det.
Right.
The English version didn't have a thorax, but the American version did. The thorax is the part where we attach the wings. But enough of that. The interesting thing about the gold rib hare's ear is that it's really a nymph.
Yes, without the tail antennae and as fat as a pupa.
So you see it as a pupa, because I think a gold rib hare's ear is more like a pupa than a nymph.
Det tycker jag.
Just what I think.
Sen
And
kommer
now,
en
this
spännande fråga.
is an exciting one for Kaitum. The Kaitum nymph, or heron's nymph. And this is more like a variant of the heron's nymph with the gold head. The original only used copper wire.
Exactly. And there's some question about who first designed it.
Sen har jag då ett antal såna
And then I've got a
det här är
few.
ju pupper. Det är
These are pupae,
varianter på
variations on a
det man
check
ofta
nymph.
kallar det för checknymfer eller liknande.
This is another
Annan
version.
variant.
We often imitate caddis pupae or small shrimps. And then there's a really small one, a classic nymph.
Vanliga klassiska nymferna. Då sätter jag dit en
I use a
liten
small green rascal about size 16 or 18, which can be very good if you're using a nymph and a strike indicator. If you use a correctly weighted nymph for the depth and current, and you add one of these as a dropper, this will give you a sporting chance of going deep enough. You simply use the gold head to transport the little nymph.
Så man aldrig har en sportslig chans att få ner på det djupet annars. Utan då bär man använder helt enkelt guldskallen ofta som transportör av den lilla nymfen.
And then a classic one. This is a hare's ear nymph. Hare's ear, pheasant tail, the Sawyer Swedish nymph. Yes, all the slim and attractive nymphs are very good.
Right.
Ja, vanliga, tunna, smäckra nymfer är ju alltid riktigt bra.
Absolut.
But you can tell us about this pattern.
Som du får berätta om.
This is an honest-to-goodness Swedish super pupa. In the far north of Sweden, in our circles at least, we prefer to tie a yellow rear body, a brown front body, and a trimmed hackle. The world-famous super pupa is the creation of Leonard Bergqvist. I've seen that in some parts of Sweden they like to make it very slim, but in the north we like it to be a bit fatter. You can tie them completely in black or in orange. It's the design that matters, and it's very successful in the right conditions.
Right. Then I've got two things left for people who like to focus the fishing.
Bomb runs.
Bomb the trout.
Och då är det väl egentligen två mönster som företrädesvis.
Well, there are mainly two designs that guarantee success.
In Kaitum.
Yes, on the Kaitum River. This one is a woolly bugger with a small head at the front and an amusing color scheme, olive with black stripes.
That's good. But they're normally all in black, aren't they?
Black or olive green or dark brown in general. And then I've got another favorite, perhaps my all-time favorite. It's a zonker with a few flash fibers in it. And the same here, a pattern in black and grizzly is really good.
But I've even seen them use a silver mylar tube for the body.
That's the original zonker, but it's not made so often now.
You like the black one, don't you?
Yes, I can only say yes. Either all black with a bit of flash in the wing or the classic silver body. Then I'm happy. And with this selection in my box, I'd feel quite content in Kaitum. What about you?
Yes, you need some variation, I think. But you don't need to fill your box with 100 different patterns.
No.
Some mayflies, some caddis, a few nymphs and some pupae should satisfy you.